The lion charges into the hunt with overwhelming strength and uncompromising bursts of speed. Each close approach is a convergence of muscle, strategy, and instinct, seizing control in an instant. But at times, the obstacle is not prey. It is another hunter, equally prepared to engage in a decisive confrontation. When their gazes lock, the hunt immediately shifts into a test of survival. And in that moment, only one question remains: who truly holds the right to dominate? Wild dogs appear like living arrows. They do not stalk for long. They surge forward, driven by endurance and precision, bound together through an almost absolute system of body signals. Each individual weighs around 70 pounds, but when working as a unit, the pack's hunting success rate can reach nearly 80%, a figure high enough to make many larger predators hesitate. But that precision crosses into a space protected by absolute authority. A male lion, weighing over 450 pounds, emerges, transforming an energetic hunt into an immediate equation of survival. The lion does not rely on prolonged pursuit. It waits for the moment when the wild dogs spread their formation, then launches a short, forceful approach. A single unexpected advance is enough to disrupt the pack's structure. Adult members instantly shift direction, withdrawing by instinct refined through experience. This is not a struggle for energy. For the lion, it is an act of spatial control. Each step forward redraws an invisible boundary. On the savannah, dominance does not require a prolonged victory. At the right moment, order is restored. On the savannah, the leopard is known as the ghost of stealth. An adult weighs around 140 pounds, light enough for agility, yet not large enough to accept prolonged confrontations. For this cat, even a minor mistake can tip the balance of survival in an unfavorable direction. Most of the time, leopards and lions avoid each other. But when an invisible boundary is crossed, the silence is immediately broken. The lion approaches slowly, using terrain and the advantage of presence, asserting control over territories that can span up to 100 square miles. The leopard understands the signal. The first response is not confrontation, but escape. It springs onto a tree trunk, often climbing more than 20 feet above the ground, a survival buffer where the lion struggles to engage effectively. In moments of sudden pressure, the leopard shifts into a defensive posture. The body angles slightly, claws raised forward, releasing low, restrained growls. This is not a declaration of battle. but a message to maintain distance. Within just a few seconds, this restraint is often enough to force the lion to reassess the energy cost of moving closer. Encounters like these rarely last more than a few minutes. The lion asserts authority through presence, while the leopard asserts intelligence through silent withdrawal. Because in the wild, survival is not only about who is stronger, but about who knows when to disappear, preserving energy for the hunt that comes tomorrow. Along the edges of major rivers in East Africa, the savanna is no longer the lion's exclusive domain. Here, Nile crocodiles, ancient residents stretching over 16 feet in length and weighing more than 1,500 pounds, hold silent control. When these two forces meet, it is not a familiar hunt, but a test at the intersection of land and water. On sun-exposed sandbanks, the advantage often shifts toward the lion. With explosive bursts of acceleration, lions apply pressure from multiple angles, forcing the crocodile to turn defensively. In that moment, the safest choice for the ruler of the water is a rapid retreat back into the river. Beneath the murky surface, however, the order reverses completely. Crocodiles possess highly sensitive pressure detection systems and a bite force reaching approximately 3,700 psi, a number that makes any mistake costly. When a lion is compelled to cross a river, even a brief hesitation is enough for it to withdraw immediately, maintaining distance from the dangerous water. These encounters rarely last long. They end with calculated retreats from both sides. On the savanna, even the dominant force must respect natural boundaries, because power remains sustainable only when it knows where to stop, precisely where land and water meet. Under the suffocating midday heat approaching 100 degrees Fahrenheit, spotted hyenas begin to emerge from low thickets. An adult weighs around 130 pounds, equipped with an exceptionally powerful jaw. But their true strength lies not in muscle, rather in a tightly structured matriarchal system and a form of pressure-based patience. Lions and hyenas have long been locked in an endless competition for resources. When a group of hyenas closes in on a feeding lioness, sharp, echoing laughter cuts through the air like psychological pressure. They move slowly, tightening the circle step by step, constantly testing the opponent's endurance. After prolonged tension, the lioness is forced to withdraw, leaving behind the area she once controlled. The balance shifts instantly when a male lion appears. Without any display of force, the calm stride and the heavy mane moving in the wind are enough to generate pressure that causes the hyenas to hesitate. Faced with the advantage of size and commanding presence, they scatter, yielding the open ground. At times, however, confidence in numbers pushes the hyenas too close to the line of safety. A single misjudgment is enough for order to be re-established. With an estimated bite force of around 650 psi, sufficient to resolve most confrontations, on the savannah, conflict does not need to be prolonged because the boundaries of survival are always determined by timing and resolve. In the world of apex predators, territorial competition is the harshest test of maturity. Coalitions of male lions, typically made up of 2 to 4 related individuals, work together to establish control over vast areas. Each day, they patrol for hours, leaving marks and scent trails as silent declarations of ownership. But these boundaries inevitably overlap. When rival coalitions encounter one another, tension rises immediately. Close approaches and brief physical contact serve as a way to test endurance and resolve. Victory rarely belongs to a single individual. It favors the group with greater numbers and tighter coordination. When disadvantage becomes clear, the weaker side often chooses early withdrawal, avoiding unnecessary loss and yielding fertile grasslands to the opposition. Holding territory is not only about controlling space, but also about protecting bloodlines. Newly dominant coalitions may attempt to accelerate the pride's reproductive cycle. In response to this risk, lionesses act with heightened caution, moving their cubs to secluded rocky shelters to reduce exposure. Through harsh, dry seasons, any coalition that maintains territorial control for roughly 2 to 3 years reaches the peak of power. At that point, there are no permanent thrones, only those that endure longer within an ongoing cycle of replacement. Lions are often seen as the leaders of the food chain, holding dominance over vast grasslands. Yet their hunting success rate averages only around 20 to 30%, meaning failure is a daily reality. That dominance, therefore, is not a guarantee of absolute security. Near the Mara River, a lion approaches a lone wildebeest. Every sign appears familiar. The distance closing, the angle favorable. But the prey, weighing nearly 600 pounds, reacts with a sudden, powerful burst. The force of that response halts the lion, bringing the pursuit to an early end in a cloud of dry dust, as control slips out of reach. Equally dramatic is how African buffalo demonstrate the strength of the collective. Lions often target the old or the weak, but in this case, the assessment is wrong. When one individual becomes isolated, the formation shifts rapidly, applying pressure in return. Faced with a mass exceeding 1,500 pounds and tightly coordinated movement, the lion is forced to withdraw. The Arctic does not offer chances. The polar bear takes them in a single decisive beat. Its massive frame advances under heavy pressure, every sense locked in, forcing any opponent to hesitate with each close approach. In just a few critical seconds, power surges, and the balance around it shifts immediately. In this frozen realm, every push is calculated to the extreme. So what allows this predator to continue ruling such a cold and unforgiving world? The polar bear is the largest land predator of the Arctic. Adult males typically weigh between 900 and over 1,300 pounds, with body lengths reaching up to about 8 feet. A thick, fat layer several inches beneath the skin acts as powerful insulation, allowing the body to retain heat even when air temperatures drop below -40 degrees Fahrenheit. A solid skeletal frame, strong limbs, and large paws that function like natural snowshoes help spread weight across thin ice. Its dense white fur provides warmth, offers limited water resistance, and creates near-perfect camouflage against snow and ice. The combination of physical strength, cold tolerance, and highly tuned senses produces exceptional endurance. Together, these traits stand as clear evidence of the polar bear's adaptation to life in a frozen world. In the struggle to survive, danger does not come only from other predators, but at times from members of the same species. These confrontations often arise from very specific triggers: a leftover food source, a familiar travel route, or a stretch of ice close to where a female is raising her cubs. An encounter usually begins with a display of dominance. Bodies rise upright, movements trace wide arcs to claim position, and low warning sounds fill the air. If neither side yields, two massive forms press close, pushing and testing each other on slick ice until one loses leverage and withdraws to conserve energy. When food grows scarce and ice melts earlier than expected, pressure around mothers and cubs increases sharply. In rare situations, a male may direct attention toward a cub as a way to secure immediate nourishment. The mother, often weighing only about half as much as the male, is forced into a high-risk stand to shield a youngster weighing just 20 to 30 pounds. This turns the melting season into a harsh trial, where a mother must claim every possible chance of survival for her cub, or soon enter a new reproductive cycle, helping the species endure under some of the most demanding conditions on Earth. Across the frozen kingdom of the Arctic, seal breathing holes are rare gateways connecting the deep ocean to open air. For the polar bear, these openings are like hidden treasure, providing the only rich source of fat that allows survival in a land shaped by extreme cold. The polar bear relies on an exceptional sense of smell, capable of detecting prey from distances of up to 20 miles. It waits patiently beside these breathing holes for hours at a time. A seal's moment at the surface lasts only an instant, and just a few seconds can decide whether a meal is secured. When the moment arrives, the bear's forward surge is instantaneous, fast, controlled, and precise, ending the pursuit before the seal can slip back beneath the water. Each successful hunt delivers an enormous energy reward, supplying enough calories to sustain a polar bear for up to 10 days. This strategy depends not only on strength, but on reading the rhythm of the environment. The bear memorizes the locations of breathing holes and anticipates where a seal is most likely to surface. Even so, the success rate of this method remains only around 10 to 20%, turning every approach into a high-stakes calculation between remaining energy and the risk of going without food. As seal breathing holes become fewer and harder to access, reaching seals grows more difficult. Polar bears are forced to turn to smaller energy sources that are easier to reach. Along coastal cliffs that rise dozens of feet, seabirds gather in dense nesting colonies, turning the rocky slopes into a scattered food store. A polar bear climbs the steep terrain, carefully placing each wide paw onto narrow ledges to reach nests set close to the cliff's edge. Compared to a full-grown seal, seabird eggs provide only a modest number of calories. Still, during the summer months, each small clutch helps fill part of the energy gap. The moment a polar bear moves quietly beneath the chaotic calls of seabirds reveals another side of an apex hunter, accepting smaller rewards, repeated many times, to hold on through one more season on bare rock instead of snow and ice. Among the greatest challenges a polar bear faces, an adult walrus is the most physically formidable opponent. A full-grown walrus can weigh up to 4,000 pounds, while even a highly capable polar bear may weigh around 1,500 pounds. With long, powerful tusks, walruses can drive forceful pushes that make the bear hesitate with every attempted approach. Because of this, taking down a walrus is a major challenge. Polar bears rarely choose a direct confrontation with the strongest adults. Instead, they watch from the edge of the herd, scanning for juveniles near the shoreline using a stampede strategy. The bear appears suddenly from downwind, rushes straight into the group, and triggers chaotic pressure. As the massive adults surge towards the water, the bear focuses on juveniles that fall behind or weaker individuals that cannot keep pace. The payoff can be enormous, around 150,000 calories, roughly equal to the energy gained from a ringed seal. And it is this flexibility and intelligence that helps the polar bear sustain its rhythm, remaining the dominant land hunter of the far north. At the end of summer, along coastal areas where freshwater flows into the sea, salmon begin their upstream run. Guided by instinct, the polar bear returns to the river, choosing shallow stretches only a few feet deep, where the current narrows and the fish are forced to reveal themselves in a hurried push forward. In that moment, the polar bear uses height and reflexes, tracking movement beneath the surface and waiting for the instant a salmon accelerates past. Quick snaps in a split second are enough to secure a fish weighing a few pounds before it can slip away, helping fill part of the energy gap left by the melting season. The sight of a polar bear waiting patiently in the cold river, moving in rhythm with the salmon migration, reveals another side of this Arctic hunter, always trying to read the flow ahead, choosing the right position and the right timing to make the most of every opportunity the short season provides. At the mouth of a melting glacier, the tide rises and falls by about 6 feet each cycle. The polar bear tracks each surge of water, waiting for the moment a pod of milky white belugas is pushed close to the shallow shore, where a rare opening appears. It climbs onto slick, cold rock outcrops, searching for a high angle to close in. But shifting depth and too many escape routes make the chance vanish in an instant. Even so, the bear tries again, swimming to cut off the beluga's path and press an approach. Water sprays upward, the polar bear is left alone, and precious energy is spent on an unfinished opportunity. Switching strategy, the polar bear moves onto flatter ice, where breathing holes speckle the white surface like dots. Belugas can hold their breath for up to about 20 minutes, but they still must return to the surface on a steady cycle. Now the bear only needs silence, memorizing the spacing between breathing holes, like reading an invisible map. The critical moment arrives. The bear slides a few feet in a low posture, driving force from the shoulders, timing the split second when the water opens and closes again. From a missed chance on the rocks to a precise weight beside a breathing hole, the polar bear reveals a hard lesson of the Arctic. When the environment shifts, the one that endures is not only strong, it must be patient and always solve the energy equation correctly. On the savannah, power does not belong to the one who rushes forward the fastest, but to the one who clearly understands personal limits. Lions dominate not only through the strike, but through the ability to read space, timing, and even the moment when retreat is necessary. For those who want to continue following moments where power is tested and order is rewritten each day, pressing like helps support this storytelling journey. And subscribe, because survival is a lesson with no end.